Live from Radio Roy, Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. This is Roy Kessel for Sports Philanthropy Network. And we're excited to have with us today's special guest, Ali Novitsky. Ali is going to share with us more information about the incredible women's initiatives that you're working on. So thank you for being with us today.
I am thrilled to be here. So thank you so much. But yeah, it's so exciting to talk about all the work we're doing. So my company is called the Fit Collective. And so we're a physician founded company. So run it with my husband. He's a psychiatrist and I do work with all metabolic health. And what we do is we work with women in high performance systems. So whether they are the high performer, so whether they're, the professional athlete themselves or they're supporting a professional athlete, it really takes an ecosystem strength to be able to make everybody successful and make everybody happy and make everybody be able to keep doing what they're doing versus burning out. So we really address that part. We help put structures and systems in place so that people can continue to perform in a high capacity and really like to do it still.
Well, I think one of the things that's hard, you talk about systems and structures, right? For people that don't have that behind them,
Yeah.
right? It's really difficult to have to build all of that from scratch.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we use all techniques that are all evidence based. Dialectical behavioral therapy. I'm going to just say that quickly because we don't have to go too much into it, but it's all emotional regulation based, meaning how we manage our stress. We show it outward. So if somebody, for example, is yelling, that's a sign of stress. And so the structures that we put in place allow for us to tell people, hey, this is the way that you respond to stress, and here are the strategies that you can use so that that doesn't happen. And then you don't create a scene within the family. And once everybody in the family, the ecosystem can regulate their own stress, then everybody is a lot happier and systems work a lot better.
Well, and I think one of the things, we're standing in front of a camera, right? So we'll get to see what this looks like. But for most people, they don't live their life in front of a camera.
Oh, right.
And so their reaction and their stress and everything that they have each day, they probably don't even realize what their facial expressions are, their micro expressions, and how that comes across to the other family members, much less people beyond the family unit.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because one of the things that we have people do, first thing we have them do is we say, okay, we're going to actually identify your top stress symptoms, meaning what happens in your body or what can other people see when you're stressed. And so a lot of times they don't know and their partner has to tell them. So for example, when I see my husband doing this across the room, I already know his stress level is at a 7. And so you're
Is
right.
that a bad
Exactly.
football game or is it something other than that?
Usually the Sixers.
Sixers.
The Sixers, they're maybe not doing as well as we want them to be doing, but they're doing great. So yeah, so it actually is really intuitive that you said that because we have to work with each other. And then the nice thing is that when somebody is stressed, let's just say, and maybe what they do is they yell, the other person will realize this isn't about me. This isn't personal. This is just how they react to their stress. Right. So a lot of times we take on the stress of others, especially as women. And that's one of the reasons we do so much work with women.
Well, and I think we all do that, whether people want to admit it or not. Sometimes men will try and mask it and hide it, right? Oftentimes women are more open and expressive
Yeah.
about their feelings. And one of the conversations we had earlier today is about men's health and men not being willing to open up and talk about some of those mental health issues. I think that the challenge is it's there for everybody, right? Mental health is the number one issue we hear about in sports at all levels, but it's also in society, every group of physicians, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, teachers, every group that we talk to has significant amount of mental health and mental stress in what's going on. And it's question, do they have somebody like you that's got an organization to support them?
Yeah, and that's actually our initiative right now. The one thing you mentioned is that stress, everybody hears the word stress, and we all think of it differently. And so, what we do, I would say our top strength is we put simple language to what people are experiencing so that you can take it anywhere and somebody can say, oh, yeah, I identify with that. Oh, I am stressed. And then we say, yes. And like what we're trying to work on is here's the system. And this is the system that works for elite performers, right? And so we're talking like elite performers, they don't follow the same rules. This is just a pressure filled system where they have a responsibility to society. So they have that pressure, they have the internal family pressure, and then there's a lack of support. So when we provide that support and we do it with simple language, people who are looking at them, idolizing them say, oh, oh, I can do that too. And so it becomes kind of this whole big downward effect in a good way.
Well, and the expectations are so high in the sports space, right? And in everything else, I think people have a fairly uh, manageable understanding of what their expectations are. And in sports, it doesn't matter how good you are, how much you practice, because every single time you step on the court or the field or the ice, right, it changes. The games change at a rapid rate, and your performance and a huge percentage of your identity is wrapped up in how successful you were. If you perform at the 80th percentile, that's not good enough.
Oh, absolutely. And so I was a Division I softball player, had a full scholarship, and I actually had a pretty traumatic experience where I could no longer throw a ball. It's called the yips. Do you know the yips?
We do, of course.
I developed the yips. I was on full scholarship and I couldn't throw a softball. And I'll tell you right now, that performance that I had to keep that full scholarship and I had to still perform even though there was this whole thing happening. I saw it firsthand, and I think then becoming a physician and really seeing, oh wow, things like that happen like in the medical world too. Like we're all not that different, but we all are high performers and the rules are different.
Right. And what that stress, right? You see it with golfers putting or chipping. You
Yeah.
see it with, Steve Sachs, obviously one of the famous examples in baseball, couldn't throw the ball from second
That's
base.
right. Chuck
And
Knobloch.
Chuck Knobloch, right? These are amazing athletes that had incredible records, and all of a sudden it just
Absolutely.
hit this mental wall, and they couldn't get past that.
And I believe it's for sure, they call it a dystonia, but it is stress induced for sure. And so what we do, and my husband's a psychiatrist, so the nice thing is we have everything really backed. We use the tools that are really science based to target that, but before it becomes a problem, right? You can't get the yips and then like try to backtrack. It doesn't work that way, but it's like targeting. And so we actually work with kids. So we're starting at the family level, because again, the language is simple. Kids can understand the language too.
So you're based out of the Philadelphia area, but what geographic footprint do you serve?
Worldwide. Worldwide. So we are all virtual and we travel. So our core content, we have platforms and apps, and so that's the first part of what we do. But we also have, exercise programming and nutrition programming and whole health. So it's basically, if you can imagine, whole health optimization, starting with that emotional regulation first, and then really kind of expanding it to the woman, the family, everyone. But we are located online, thefitcollective.com, and we work with any state, any geographical location, which is the beautiful thing.
Allie, thank you so much for joining us on Radio Row here. This is Roy Kessel signing off for Sports Philanthropy Network. Please remember to live generously.